Your Partner in Success Radio is a free business podcast with host Denise Griffitts. It's all about great stories, conversation, and context to help you move your business and life forward with actionable tips and advice from her guest experts. To listen and subscribe, just find us on iTunes, Google Play, or wherever you consume your podcasts.
Good morning and welcome back to Your Partner in Success Radio. I am your host, Denise Griffitts, and I'm so glad you're here today. Our topic is how to generate ideal clients from social media in 30 minutes a day. Deb Coman's proven trust-building strategy. And this episode of Your Partner in Success Radio is brought to you by Devin Blaine and the Blaine Group Incorporated, Inc., Blaine Group, Inc. When it comes to getting noticed and making a lasting impression, Devin is the powerhouse ally that you really want by your side. The Blaine Group is a full-service communications agency with deep expertise, and I mean deep expertise, in media relations, crisis management, and strategic publicity that drives real results. So whether you're launching a book, elevating your brand, or steering through a pivotal moment, Devin and her team have the experience to help you stand out and thrive. Learn more about the BlaineGroupInc.com and see how they can help put you ahead of the curve. So today on Your Partner in Success Radio, I am joined by Deb Coman. Now, Deb is a leading content conversion strategist and copywriter. She empowers service-based businesses to turn engaged audiences into loyal buyers, helping them build trust, showcase their unique spark, I love that, and create a steady stream of clients with less stress. Now, this is important to know about her. She has been recognized by BuzzSumo as a top 100 content marketer to follow right now, and by Now Marketing NOW Marketing Group as a top 113 digital marketing expert to follow. So get ready for actionable insights on how to truly connect and convert through social media without spending all day online and losing your mind in the process. And you can find her on your favorite social media platforms and at debcoman.com. Good morning, Deb, and welcome. I have really been looking forward to this conversation.
Good morning, Denise. So wonderful to be here with you.
Well, and you are a friend of our mutual friend, Melanie. And that's how you came to Melanie Benson.
Yes, Melanie Benson. She's a true connector.
She is.
She practices what we'll be talking about today. And it's all about connecting in a meaningful way with other people.
It is. And I know that showing up as your authentic self, building trust, listening deeply, and creating meaningful connections is really important to you. And you prove it every day. Can you share how that shows up in your daily life? What does it look like for you day to day?
It is always, I've always been driven by relationships with other people in my family, with my friends, with my peers, and as I brought myself into the business world. And the way it looks like for me every day is to put myself in the shoes of the people who I want to engage with and really think about what's important to them and get very curious about what are they thinking about, talking about, writing about. And I very much bring that to how I use social media, whereas many think of it first and foremost as a way to share our message, broadcast what we're thinking about, what we're doing in our business, how we can help. And that's all very important. That's only a piece of what we should be using social media for. The real power in social media is in the connection piece that happens typically in other people's content, in their comments around what they're talking about already.
Go deeper into that. I think Melanie has mentioned that as well, working with other people's audiences, so to speak.
Yes.
But explain that if you would.
Yes, I'm happy to.
I didn't say it in my Cuban accents. Just explain
it. I will do my best. Yes, so exactly. It is about, instead of focusing so much on what we're going to put out on social media, my approach to social media is to get very clear on who and what topics and what audiences I want to make connection with. And then when I open the social media platform, I look for those topics, people, accounts, hashtags, if they're hashtags, themes, and then I review what people are already talking about. What are the conversations that are already happening? And step into those in a way to join the conversation, not take it over, not bring it in the direction we want it to go in, but step into that conversation and join in. And that's really how many of us get noticed online because so many are not doing this at all.
And you're right, and I've been very bad about it. And recently, I've started, saying, "Denise, you need to do this." And honestly, I had big excuse, "Oh, I'm busy. I don't have time." Me, me, me. And I would whine to myself and I wouldn't do much about it. And then I realized that I need to be curious. You've mentioned that word. I need to be curious. I need to be connecting with other people, even if it's just that's a great comment. Thank you for sharing. Just something.
Hmm.
And I go to Reddit and I do the same thing, mostly for podcasting, because there's a lot of information in there. Most of it's bad, I'll be honest with you, but it tells me what not to do and what not to talk about. So, there's different ways
Yeah.
of finding this information out, but you're right. Be curious and get in the conversation in a mild or meaningful way.
Yes, exactly. And you do get noticed because, as we said, many people don't do it at all. Some do it in the way of kind of quick and short and not all that meaningful. Good job, love
Yeah,
this.
I'm
Uh,
guilty.
and
That's
and
why
that's
I said
okay.
it.
We all do that, and that is fine. We just want to make sure, and I know you talk a lot about this, Denise, with all your guests and topics around setting intention and that it's important to you as to your readers. What is the intention? And we want to be thinking about that with really all aspects of our business. What's my intention for social media, for what I'm going to do, what I'm going to share here? And what I like to set as my general intention is to create connection. And many of us have this as an intention, but it's almost, just in the background, and what's really helpful is to bring it front and center, to remind yourself to write a sticky note, to just say the words before you actually get online, because it's very easy to be taken in by the feed of social media, right?
And I was going to ask you about
Yeah.
that because it is easy to just say, "Oh, well, today I'm tired. I don't want to do anything. I'm just going to put up a cute quote," which again, I'm guilty of. But later in the day, I'm thinking that's not going to make any connection. So off I go and I do exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really wonderful to come at social media from this way, and it's okay to do the other. So that's another thing I'd like to share about too, is we want to feel good about what we're doing online. We want to feel in positive energy when we step into the space. So we need to also give ourselves grace. We don't always have time to comment meaningfully on a whole bunch of posts and topics and do all of that. That's okay. But we do want to set an intention for when we are going to do that. And it allows us to take control of our experience on social media instead of what most do is just open the platform and see what's there. And then we look and we will search for topics, but we're a bit passive about the process. And that's how we get stuck. We get stuck watching things, commenting on things that really are not that meaningful to us, but they've just grabbed our attention for some reason. And when we use the approach that I share with my clients and we're talking about here today, we decide where we're going to go on that platform, who we're going to look for. I mean, I literally keep a list digitally or on paper of where I'm going on the platform.
And see,
And
that makes sense.
yeah,
Is there a particular time of day that you do this? Because I have to budget my time. I
You
really
know,
do. So
yes.
I find that if I'm saying, okay, I'm doing this between 8 and 11 a.m. on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, whatever it is, I go do it.
Yes. And I love that you asked that because I'm a big believer in what works for each of us. Like you said, if you know you really want it scheduled on your calendar, then absolutely that's the way to go. Some prefer to just say first thing I do and at the start of my workday or the thing I do in the evening. So I also talk a lot about how you might find it much easier to do and not that time consuming in the evening or on the weekend. And often there's not as much noise online during those periods of time. So you can find some great pockets of conversation and activity that you might not otherwise find during the what you might think of as a typical workday. So I love your example of Monday, Wednesday, Friday, because that's exactly what I talk about with the people I work with is pick what works for you. We don't need to say every day. We don't need to say for an hour every day. It's not so much about frequency and quantity as it is about the quality of the
Right,
conversation.
right. And one thing, and this bugs me no end, and I know it bothers you and everybody else that has, is paying any attention at all. When somebody jumps into a conversation, I can say it, not twice, but I can say it. But they're talking about something that's completely off topic, and you can tell they just wanna get in there and sell something. I
Yeah.
delete them, and if they do it again, I block them. I don't have much patience. I can't talk
Yes.
today. I don't have much patience for that. You know why? Because I drank coffee this morning. I never drink that stuff, and it's
Oh,
killing me.
uh-oh. Thank you for the warning. So true. So, and much like we see that in our comment sections, we of course never want to be that person.
No.
And when we're setting this intention to connect, of course, part of that connection is we hope that we may find people we can collaborate with or get to work with in some capacity, but we're not leading with that. We're leading with simply the connection piece. And you're exactly right to share how when the energy comes through that people are wanting to be seen in this conversation, it really erodes the trust right away. We can
It
kind of
real it
you can
does.
feel it, right? I mean, can you
Right.
feel it, Denise, when you see those people pop up? I mean, they may
Oh,
have good
yeah. I
intentions.
get the icks. I really do.
Yes, we know, people know. So that's why this piece of setting intention is really important. Getting in that energy. Yes, we may want and need clients. However, we are joining the conversation to connect first.
Oh,
That's
yes.
step one.
I'm glad you brought that up again because it is so important. I mean, you're not trying if you're trying to hijack, even whether you know it or not, and I'm a little bit shocked by how many people don't know that they're trying to hijack a conversation. They just don't
Yeah.
know. They don't know what they don't know. But if they do it often enough and they get blocked often enough, they might wanna start to figure it out.
Yes, exactly. And some may know and they think others don't see it, but
Yeah.
we do see it. Those of us who are kind of tapped into that energetic space of how someone's showing up, we can tell if it feels real, if it feels genuine, if they're genuinely curious, or if they're trying to lead the conversation a certain way. And I really encourage people to bring that curiosity. Remember, you're in their space. If you went to their post, their video, their snippet from the podcast, you want to shine the light back on them. Ask a question, comment what their post made you think of or reminds you of. Don't lead with the, "Oh, that's so much like the program that I have that you can learn more
Oh,
about over
yeah.
here," right? We see
Yeah.
that all day long, and the thing is, most people are not going to, be pulled in by that anyway. They're just gonna look past it for the most part. They will, however, notice the person who seems genuinely curious, who's contributing to the conversation. which is key. We're not detracting. We're not commenting just for the sake of visibility of our name there. We're commenting because we want to make connection. We want to contribute. We might pull someone else into the conversation when it's relevant, when we know that they would love to be a part of this too. This is how we expand the conversation that the first person started.
Exactly. What role, and I have to ask this, does listening and engaging with others play in avoiding that spammy sales approach? What do you need to teach yourself is my question.
Yeah, you need to a lot of it does have to do with the energy and the perspective that you bring to social media. So what are your thoughts about social media? How do you feel about it? Do you hate it and you just want to get in and out as fast as possible? Well, we're going to have to shift that a little bit because that's going to show that you're quick and you just want to get in and out. Um, and then with these people, I think what really works is to remind them of all that's possible in the power of social media when we go about it with the right approach. And it can actually be enjoyable. So many of my clients come to me feeling like social media is a chore that they really don't want to do. And they learn to love it. It doesn't mean they have to spend a lot of time there, but they learn that by using the approach of commenting meaningfully, that other people start looking at their posts more and engaging more with what they have. So engagement is key. Conversation is key. Expanding what's already there and not grabbing the spotlight, but really shining it on the topic, the other person, the audience is really what draws people in, and it's how you stand out. So when we talk about commenting on someone else's post, that's not just for the sake of the person who created the post. As we all know, many, many people are looking at those comments. And you do get noticed when you bring value to what's happening there. And then it's natural for people to say, oh, who's that? Let me go take a peek at their profile. Let me see what they're posting about in their space. And that's how connection and relationships begin.
It is. And now that I'm paying more attention to LinkedIn, because I was on Facebook a lot until about a year ago, somebody hacked my account and put two-factor on it, and I can't get past it.
Mm.
And Facebook won't let me back in. So I said, to heck with you. And I went back over to LinkedIn. And actually, I'm finding that's more my spiritual home, and I didn't even know it.
Yeah.
But what I'm finding is that we all have a unique personality. All of us do. I have found this for so long in my podcast guests. And I guess my question is, how can leveraging your unique personality, we all have one, I do, and I know I did. I do, did, do. Will. I'm never drinking coffee again. It really plays with me. It's not good for me. But how does that, how do you find your voice? I think is what my real question is, because listen, we all have a bit of imposter syndrome. And
Yes.
females in particular are taught never to, get out there and toot your own horn. We need to get over that. But how do we find and get comfortable with our unique personality and make that normal across all social media? Don't go, I'm this way over here and I'm this way over here. You have to be
Right.
consistent.
Yes. Yes. So this is such a key piece for people to really feel comfortable in exactly what you're saying, showing up the way they really are, the way they would be when they walk into a room or they chat with a friend over a cup of, well, not coffee in
Not
your
coffee,
case,
no tea.
Denise, but for some of us, a cup of coffee, maybe something else. But what is that conversational you? Who you really are, what your values are, how do you like to spend your time, what's important to you? As much as you're comfortable sharing, we want to bring that into our content. Social, email, everything we do, our websites, so that people get to experience who we are and how we move about in the world, because that helps them to find things that they either admire or are similar to us, or sometimes it's actually not similarities. It's a difference that they find intriguing that would be helpful to them. So, one of the steps in the process that I help people through in the commenting on social is it starts with you, and the acronym is trust. So, the U stands for unleash your creativity. And this is where you want to, if you use
Say that again. I'm
humor,
writing this down.
unleash your creativity. So before you go and write that comment that came to your mind, h- do it your way. Does it make you think of something funny you want to share? Does it make you want to share a story that happened to you in the past? What can you bring that's creative about you into the conversation? We tend to sometimes think we have to be super professional online, and sometimes that creates little roadblocks almost to who we really are. If you use slang, you might use slang in your posts. If you use humor, like I said, if you like music, you might want to find ways to bring these pieces of you into how you show up online. Because that's when people say, "Oh, you're an animal lover? So am I."
I've got
Oh,
cats.
exactly. We know
Everybody
this about
knows it.
you. Right, Denise? And that's for many people, they would say, "Oh, I love that. Tell me about that." This is a conversation starter. If you bring that into comments on social media or your own posts, so you can go about this both ways, it will strike up conversation. Now, is that going to be a direct line to people hiring you?
No,
Maybe,
I
but
don't think
maybe
so.
not. But they want to pay, they will pay attention. And then what happens is, as much as we go back to those same accounts or people or topics, so do others. So you'll find yourself in similar circles around certain topics or themes, and that's how you create relationships over time, right? People will remember you from a memorable comment where you're contributing. And when you show up again, you're now like building with another brick of the relationship.
And that makes so much sense. It's something you just said, and I wrote this down too. We were talking about, people used to feel, I think, that I had to be very professional, very kind of buttoned
Yes.
up. And I'm a web developer. I started 20 years ago. And back before we had WordPress, thank God there's a
Mm.
WordPress. But we used to build in HTML. That was it. We didn't have graphical user interface. We couldn't put pictures in there. Then we got to, basically, we'd have a dark background with white text, and that was pretty much it. It grew very rapidly, but that's how it started. And then I noticed this, and, everybody said, well, I've got to have a portrait on the wall behind me. Men and women looked like they were bankers. They would have
Right.
this horrible headshot or, torso shot where they're standing with their hand on the leather. It was like the business, what was that? Uh, something shots, where you would go and everybody had
Oh,
their
like a
fist
headshot or
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, they had their fist under their chin, which I still hate, but it was glamour shots, glamour shot. It was like the business thing of glamour shots,
Mhm.
and everybody looked like they were standing in front of their grandfather's portrait, and they were a banker. It didn't matter if they were talking about knitting, they all did it. I was like, "Okay, this is not authentic." And I caught on to
Yeah.
that very, very quickly, and that leads me back to how do you find your authentic voice? It can take some time, I think.
Yes, and I encourage people to have fun with it, experiment,
Yeah.
stretch yourself a little bit beyond your comfort zone. We talk about this a lot, like people have different approaches to social media, how much they want to share. You don't have to tell the whole story, but you can tell the parts that you're comfortable with sharing, right? You can Share photos or video of your workspace. Maybe you don't want to be in those photos. That's okay. But you can still share about you by showing the personality that exists in your office, or you work from your back deck at home. You can share video and or photos of your view out your window, or something you see on your walk. And these are all things that show bits of our personality, what's important to us. They usually spark stories of some kind, and it makes us much more memorable than, like you said, Denise, the glamour shots,
Yeah.
right? I mean, are we showing up like that to client appointments? Most of us are not. So the more they get to see me and you, how we're going to be when we engage with them and work with them, the better it is. Whether they hear a voice, as with your podcast, people connect to that more deeply than they may to someone's writing. For someone else, it might be the other. They connect more to someone's writing than they would to listening to their voice. So I encourage people to play in the space, find what works for your audience and for you, and do more of that.
And that's such important advice. Listen, as you know, I am a highly committed introvert and I'm autodidact. So say that twice real fast.
Mm.
So I don't show up in person anywhere on the internet. There are no pictures of me. There never have been. There never will be. I read 1984 when I was a kid and it scared the bejeebers out of me, but
Mm.
I'm a very private person. I'm not shy and I don't have any filters that I've ever discovered, and I do tend to say what I want to, but I made the decision many years ago that I was not going to slap my personal business all over the internet. It's just not going to happen. And that's why when I was still on Facebook, I created the Feline Office Assistant group, and everybody there knew about my two giant gingers,
Mhm.
hashtag Hamilton is an ass and hashtag Silas the Good. They got Christmas cards. So people, and my point for that is people still felt like they knew me. They couldn't
Yes.
see me, they can hear me, they can read me, and they knew all about the cats.
Yes. And I
Does
love
that
your
make sense?
example. It
Okay.
absolutely does. And the whole point of this, right, is to find the place where we each are comfortable and it works for our audience. So much like what you do with everything you do, of setting that intention to connect with your audience, you do that beautifully, of course, through your voice and the conversations you have with your guests, but sharing about your cats, sharing that coffee gives you the jitters and
It
it makes it
does.
harder to speak, right?
Now the
It's a
whole world
it's
knows.
Yeah,
It's,
and also that you have humor, obviously. Not everyone does, that's okay, but let people know those parts of you that you're comfortable sharing, because those are often the things they'll remember. I mean, they may remember some of our, theories and frameworks and that sort of thing, but often they're gonna remember, like they always say, how you made them feel,
right.
right?
And
Let
what's your personality, your true personality, not the one you made up and that you can't maintain. You cannot, so
Exactly.
don't do it.
Right. It's too much work. Let's just be ourselves. And as we all know, it's going to allow us to attract the right people faster.
Absolutely. And I was having a conversation, I think it was Ben Gay the third. He's my Wednesday co-host. And we were talking in the green room. We have to cut a lot of that part out. No filters. But we were talking about neither one of us can be bothered to tell a fib because we can't ever remember them.
Exactly. Well,
So we
that's what they
just
always
tell the
say.
truth, you know.
Right. Much easier to remember. I just listened to one of your recent episodes with Ben, and I love that, right? It's easier to just be yourself. And again, you get to decide where the line is. You get to decide how much of the story you tell or show or put online. And as you stretch into the spaces that you can just a little bit feel more comfortable with, it just makes the connection happen faster. So I don't know if you do this, Denise, but maybe you post video or uh, photos of your cats. I don't know if that's something you would do. Um, but or you could just describe what they're doing. Well, I'm sure you've done that and that things have happened.
Yeah. Remember one time I was talking with a guest and all of a sudden I heard myself say, Hamilton, quit licking your brother's butt. And I had to cut that part out. Yeah, I talked to them.
Yes, but people will love that about you. And those who do the same will connect with you, right? They will think, "Oh, I love that she shared that. I do that too." Or I could see that, or that's funny, or whatever it is, it becomes a conversation opener and expander. So the more of that we bring in, maybe it's well, one of the easiest ones that we I encourage people to do, not just on website, but over time revisit it is, why do you do the work that you do? Why do you do this? Why do you have a podcast? Why are you a content conversion strategist? Because we share our stories, why we do this work, what's important to us, what we value. Those are things that people can connect with, relate to, find common ground. Or, like I said, it's not always that we need to work with people who are just like us. Often we find I need to work with them because they're actually quite different than I am. And they're going to help me show up in ways that may stretch me.
Oh,
So,
absolutely.
right? It only happens when we share those things. The audience shouldn't have to dig to know more about us. It's easier for us to share those parts to the extent that we're comfortable.
It is. And how long ago did you start your business?
About 12 or so years ago.
That's what I
'Cause I had
thought.
Yeah, it's relatively new in terms of some standards because it happened after my kids, really. Before that, I worked in community mental health for many years, in community residences and management for adults with mental illness. And then I chose all my next jobs and businesses around my family, essentially, to what I do today, which is where even though my kids are all grown, it has always allowed me more freedom and time to do things the way that I want to do it than a typical job might.
And I love asking these questions because I'll always find out that you started doing something completely
Oh,
different than what you're doing now. And I'm calling that upskilling. We take what we've learned, we take what we've taught, learn, we take what we worked with and we upskill that into something that now I'm happy. This is what I want to do.
yes. And I love that you share that too, because that is we do bring all those pieces of our past experiences, jobs, and otherwise into everything we do today. I mean, I have a background in working with adults with mental illness. When I work with my clients, I absolutely know how to create a safe space for people to share how do they really feel about social media or what gets in the way when they go to write emails to the people in their community. Um, and I just have those skills are still quite relevant. I mean, I don't need them all the time, but it certainly helps people. And it's a connection point, as you know, like when you work in human services or you work in nonprofit world, it's a different flavor than corporate. And for some, that might be really relevant.
Well, and that does make sense, but still, the days of getting a job, and then staying there forever and ever and ever are gone. Those days are over.
They are. And it's great, right? Because we evolve. We find what we enjoy more, our skills evolve, and I feel like our businesses should too. What we do for work, how we spend our time does not have to be stagnant. Mine has shifted quite a bit, even in terms of having my own business, because as I said yes to new things, I learned what I enjoyed most. And the key for me has always been that connection that goes back to probably my mental health days of making meaningful connection with other people. And that's been a common thread to now where it's really central to what I do in my help around social media, email, and all the other communication we do in our business. It's to create connection. Yes, to get sales and clients, but the core piece of it, the core value is to build trust so that we can create and build relationships.
Oh, absolutely. And that's why I podcast. As I mentioned, I'm a highly committed introvert. When I go outside, and I go out there, but most everything is delivered to my door these days, thank goodness. But when I go out, it's kind of interesting because, I live in the deep South. Everybody says, "Hey, how you doing? How's your mom?" And then they want a hug. I did, don't touch, oh, shoot, you touched me. So I'm just used to it. I don't like it a whole lot, but it's interesting when I get back home because I didn't have to spend conversation with one person who wasn't all that interesting for 59 and 3/4 minutes. I've timed it. That's all I'm good for. But I'm actually a little bit energized just by human connection. "Hey, how are you
Yeah.
doing?" None of it means anything, but I got to see people, or I made myself
Yeah.
go see people.
Yeah.
So, but anything beyond that, I've got to go now. I'm sorry.
Oh, I completely understand it. I know a lot, especially at any kind of business events where sometimes, especially, I've been to a bunch that have been a bit more retreat like, and there's a lot of activity where there are hugs and touching. It's so important to remember that not everyone appreciates that.
No. No.
Right? It's really important to honor that for each person. And the same with how we approach all aspects of our business. We have to honor ourselves first and bring that into everything that we do with people, including when we ask questions. Sometimes I'll ask someone, if you don't mind sharing, how did you do this, that, or the other? Right? Not everyone wants to share something that feels highly personal. And I guess it's important to note highly personal is going to feel different to each person.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's quite unique. And it's really important for us to honor that online the same way we do in person.
And again, it's that consistency and going back to what you're talking about, being in retreats, everyone wants to talk and hug. I had a very good client years ago gave me and he was giving me a great gift. However, it was a massage.
Mm.
I I ran screaming out of the room. I'm pretty sure I wasn't fully dressed. I hated it.
Oh,
It
yes.
was the creepiest thing. And not everybody is ready for that. I gave it a shot for, 5 minutes.
Yeah.
It was the most miserable experience of my life.
Yeah. Oh,
And it was a
gosh.
gift, and I hated it. I mean, I was really massively uncomfortable, but it was a
Yeah.
great gift for somebody else. But he had
Exactly.
no way to know that, and I never said a word.
Yeah. Right, these are the things, right? These are our unique personalities, our unique likes and dislikes, and they're all okay. And we can share that. I mean, I have friends who say, "I don't like to be hugged online." They'll share online about those stories about being at retreat and that when they say, "No, no, thank you," like, "I don't wanna participate in this thing we're doing here," that needs to be okay, right? We all get to choose the way we show up and stay within our own comfort level because we all are different. I mean, it's just as odd to someone else that some people love massages, right?
I
I
know.
mean, it's just the way it is. And I think it's important for us to know as individuals what are those things that are important to us that we value um that are make up kind of who we are, and that's okay to be shared. You know how sometimes people do on their websites in their about me section, they'll say like, 10 things you might not know about me, and it's usually kind of fun. And they might say, I don't like massages, or I do love this, or and it's a way for people to share those pieces and let others know, where you stand on certain things.
Right. And I wanted to go back, Deb, to listening because that is so
Yeah.
it's s I don't know if it's something we learn or something that we innately understand, but sitting back, and I'll say this on the podcast, I've said it before, sit down and shut up.
Mm,
Stop talking, listen. That's where the value from you to them comes to, they want to know that you're hearing them, whether I'm working with a client on a website or I'm talking with somebody on the podcast or I'm whatever it is I'm doing, they just need to know deeply, need to know that they're being heard.
yes. And especially online, when so many things can feel quite impersonal, when you are actively listening and remembering as best we can, you are going to stand out. And there are some tips I openly share with people. I don't always have the best memory, but if you talk to me about, let's say, your cats, or something you did, a place you visited last year, I might actually write a note to myself
Mhm.
next to your name. So first thing will be your name. Get your name correctly spelled, make sure I pronounce it properly, but then other things only that you've shared online, and then I will bring that back again the next time we speak, if it's appropriate. How did that trip end up being for you? Or how is your cat who wasn't well? When we do those kinds of things, and it's okay to use like I do use helps the helping aspect of writing these things down once in a while because I might not remember them all, but then bring that back into the conversation. That's really meaningful to people. When oh wow, you remembered that? And I'll say, well, I did write it down. I don't want to be misleading at all. But to say things like that, or you remember someone mention how many kids they have, or someone's name, or that sort of thing, um, it really stands out, and that comes from listening and paying attention. Little things like I remember, with you, Denise, sorry you can't get away from it, but what coffee does to you now, right? I'm not gonna forget that.
I
But
don't know what I was thinking because I knew better.
but these are the things that are important, and people will say, "Oh, that's really nice that you remembered that. Thank you for asking," right? And now we have opened up a conversation. And now we're connected maybe a little bit more deeply than we were before that.
Exactly. So when you're working with clients, Deb, are there any particular kind of stumbling blocks? I know you've said, some of them say, I don't like social media. That's common. That's very, very
Yeah.
common. When I'm building a website, one of the first things I'm going to ask you is, do you have social media in place? And if they say, oh no, I don't like it, well, I'm not going to build you a website because unless you're actively driving traffic to it, what I will provide you is a really pretty boat anchor. And
Mm,
I'm not going to do that. So you have to have a plan, a strategy. Hire somebody, do it on your own, but you've got to have a way to drive traffic. And they're like, oh, I'll turn down
yeah.
sites for that. So if you're not going to work with this thing, there's no point. You're going to pay a lot of money for a boat anchor.
Yes, for sure. And people do that. They say that they don't love social media. They don't want to spend time there. It's pretty common to hear if I didn't have to do it for my business, I wouldn't do it at
Right.
all. Right. And I love it because I know it to be the place where I meet new people. We all know, like you said, unless we're driving traffic to our website or to our email list, we're in a closed loop and we're not going to meet a lot of new people or expand our audience in any way. But these things like your podcast, like what we do on social, allow us to be exposed to other communities, other audiences, other people, other ideas about what we can be talking about or sharing about. And so a lot of my initial work with people is just opening them up to seeing the possibilities with social media so they can shift how they feel about it and find the groove for themselves of how they can use that. And sometimes some of the very basic things are talking about um, the topics that they can be sharing about that build trust. Some people are not quite sure what those are. They get used to posting a certain way or sharing a certain way when they create content. So I share a lot of ideas and ways to get them started on what are those content um, conversation starters, basically, that build trust. The things we've talked about today, your big why.
Right.
Why do
Yeah,
you
yeah,
do
yeah.
what you do? What's important to you in your life? What do you do in your spare time that you're comfortable sharing about? Why did you start your business? What gets you going in the morning or in the work week or that even like so you and I were sharing like when do you work? Do you work in the evenings? Do you work on weekends? If we kind of share that, it's a little window into who we are and how our lives work. So I actually help people have those topic starters to look from, not to kind of copy and do exactly that, but also just to get the ball rolling with what else would you add to this list? And here's what you can be posting about or commenting about on social media or writing to your email subscribers about.
And let's
Blog.
go back to listening because I have found, and I know you have as well, we don't know what we don't know about ourselves. Look,
Yeah.
I build websites in my sleep. Recently I've been writing code on the bathroom walls in the shower with bathtub crayons. It's driving me crazy.
Mhm.
But the thing is, what we're doing, not everybody can do. You've got skills and talents that nobody else does. So do I. So do everybody listening. But we may not have recognized it. Listen, for the longest kind of time, I've always considered myself to be an A-type personality. Do what you're told, nobody gets hurt. That doesn't work, by the way. But I finally figured out that I'm actually a creative and I'm very good at it, but I didn't know. I did not know. I hadn't recognized that in myself. Why? Couldn't tell you. So I think listening to what people are saying to you and about you is
Yeah.
also very important so you can say, well, I didn't know that about myself.
Yes, exactly. And also the things that we believe people already know about us
They
and
don't.
they don't. Right.
Right.
Exactly. So just like what you're saying, when people say, "Oh, really? You did that? You used to work in human services or you used to do this or live in this place? Oh, you didn't know that? That should be a cue to us. Oh, I mustn't be sharing about that very much." Or often enough. And that is also how we build trust is keeping almost like a running list of what are those things that we can be sharing online that build trust, that let people know the real us.
And
It
not the
can
made up you.
exactly. So I love live music and we'll go to concerts and things like that, but we also do a lot of just going to local live music. We have great music here in Syracuse, New York. And I share that on social media. I'm out on a Friday night and listening to this music. And it just lets people know what's important to you, what you make time for in your life. And often they'll remember it because they don't see a lot of that all the time because people are not always sharing that. They tend to think business and business only, and that there's so much more to who we are than that.
Absolutely. And there's also oversharing. And I can't tell you how many times I've said to people, please don't put your little babies in bikinis or naked on the internet. Please don't.
Oh,
They do
yeah,
it. And I'm going to tell
yeah.
you, they land in websites that you'll throw up if you ever find them there.
Mm.
So be
Yeah.
careful. Use some
Yes.
common sense is, I guess, what I'm saying.
Yes, exactly. And much like, along the same lines, a big one for me is we'll never share something someone else shared with you
No.
unless they've shared it publicly, right? Or you either had expressly have the permission or they posted about it publicly. Okay, if they said their child did XYZ, okay, you can maybe refer to that. If they told you something in a conversation that did not happen online, you're not bringing that up anywhere, right? That's not a connection point. That is a disconnection point if you were to
That's
do that.
gossip, pure and
Yeah,
simple.
exactly. So it's very important to know. And another simple one, I do a lot of coffee chats with people and say, "Hey, is it okay if we take a photo of us?" Some people don't want to do that. Some do. If they say sure, then I always say, "Now, is it okay to share this online?" Again, some will say yes, some will say no. That has to be honored. We can't take, and we see this all the time, Denise. I'm sure you do. People take screenshots of their groups on a Zoom call. Now, unless they really have permission from
Yeah,
everybody,
I've
that's
seen
not
that.
something we do, right? So we always want to be permission based. We want to honor people's boundaries and what they're comfortable with. And when it comes to ourselves, sure, whatever we want to do, but it is important to know, as you said, there is such a thing as oversharing. And like anything else, we're going to run the risk of turning away people when we overshare. And again, it's a line that can only be defined by the person experiencing it. But I used to laugh about the days of Facebook of everybody posting the pot roast they made for dinner with mashed potatoes and peas. I didn't really need to see that picture, you know, every time they made that. Now, once in a while, people say, "Oh, look, this is what I made. This is what I'm eating tonight." I don't have a problem with that. But when it gets to those types of things, it makes me laugh a little bit, but also think like, I don't know, is that always relevant? So think about what's important, not just to ourselves, but to our audience. What would they be interested in talking about here online?
Well, exactly. And I just kind of drew a blank because I was thinking that I wanted to ask you another question. It'll come back, I think.
Okay.
I'm not promising anything, but you're right. And social media has to be, in my opinion, and apparently yours as well, an extension or basically a window into who you are, an
Yeah.
extension of. But you can't just make up something and throw it out there. Look, I make a heck of a gumbo. I have posted that picture because it was
Yes.
beautiful, but once and only once. I mean, gumbo is just, oh my gosh. And I'll be honest with you, when I'm standing in the kitchen and gumbo takes a while. It's not something you can throw in a pot and go, here it is. I'm building websites in my head at the same time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's, my creativity goes crazy when I'm in the kitchen because
Yes.
I cook by instinct. I don't have to, don't hand me a recipe because I don't follow instructions. Ask my nav in my car. She'll tell me to go left. You're not the boss of me. And off I go. But that's kind of how I figured out that I was a creative and I just ran with it. But
Yes.
again, that goes back to we don't know what we don't know. So I guess my question for you is when you're talking, oh, I know what it was. It's about virtual assistants. We'll come back to that.
Okay.
About driving traffic to whatever it is that you're doing.
Yeah.
But when you're talking with people, do you have kind of a system where you're saying, where are you? Where have you been? What do you want to do? What's important? I'm sure you do.
Yes. Yes. And as you were saying, really listening to them as they do answer those questions and tell those stories, because I do have the ability, as probably many of your listeners do, to pull out what's going to be really relevant online. Like, oh, that's really good. Like, have you shared about that online? And just let people know because we don't always know ourselves what does spark curiosity, what does spark more interest, What would be fun to weave into their website copy or their social media posting or a video that they do or a podcast, right? As we work with people and ask them those things, to really be listening to what gets us curious, right? That's also probably going to work for a lot of other people, and shine the light back on them that, hey, you know what? That's really interesting. Like, I used to drive a hot dog truck when I was in high school. And I really didn't talk about that a lot until someone, actually, it was Melody, our friend, said, "Oh my gosh, you have to be talking about that."
Well, yeah, that's
I
Oscar
know, right?
Mayer, the
At
Oscar
the end of
Mayer
it.
weenie. Yeah.
Yeah. It wasn't that famous, but it's just something different. You know, when they say, "Tell us something about you many people don't know." We all have that answer. That's an answer that would be fun and interesting to other people, but we tend to not recognize that in ourselves. So I hope that people listening are thinking about what are those things about their journey to this point, about what's important to them, about how they want to contribute to the greater good, in what way, and then ask, are you bringing those conversations and topics into your online presence? And if not, why not? Because is there some kind of uh, perspective shift that needs to happen? Do you feel like you're needing more permission, or that you just didn't realize you can play in the space? You can practice and start using it and see what happens. And that's often how we find what really works. The things we never thought would get engagement, that get engagement, it's important to say, I wonder why that did. Oh,
Right.
right? Why did that? Why? I just had one the other day. Now I'm not even going to remember what the post was, but it was not one I belabored or took a long time creating, and it was not straight up business. And so many people commented or shared or liked it, and like you were saying, that's a piece of listening too, is paying attention to that and saying, what was it about that? Was it the human interest aspect? Was it because it was funny? And how about I do more of that in my content, right? Because that's the flavor of who we are.
Exactly. And Deb, you were talking earlier about, when people, they'll tell you, "Oh, I don't want to do social media." And I suspect, and I'm going to ask, that a lot of these people say, I don't want to do this. It's just blah, blah, blah. My thinking is that they hired a virtual assistant
Yeah.
who completely tanked their online, because most virtual assistants are just, they're task oriented. And
Yeah.
most people who hire them don't train them. They don't do like you do, sit down with them. And I'm not
Yeah.
calling you a virtual assistant, but you
Right.
have to dig into these people and figure out what's important, what they've done, where they're going. And people who say, in my experience, "Oh, I don't want to do that." Well, you've had a bad experience, and I bet you it's in the VA industry. I bet you money.
Yes, quite often. And you're absolutely right in that they also have expectations for some of the staff that they hire that go beyond what another person can do. As you said, like, who either doesn't know you enough or isn't as comfortable or as good at getting your voice. It's okay to outsource some of this, but I prefer to help people find the flow where they can do as much of it themselves and enjoy it and benefit from it.
And get comfortable with it.
And exactly. So if that means you can post and or comment 3 times a week for 30 minutes, but it can be you, I'm going to encourage that over having a VA or a social media person post 7 times a day, every day of the week. And
And you can tell when that's happening, by the way.
absolutely, you can see it, and it is a tremendous trust eroder when those people comment and it's clear they don't know the relationship that exists. So those of us who spend a lot of time online, like I do, I tend to know who knows who, who's friends with who, who's worked with each other. Now, when the staff person comes in and responds to the comment, and it seems like they don't know the person, it's a
It
red flag.
shows. Yeah. If you're going to be in that line of work, you better learn to know your client and you better learn to speak in their voice.
Exactly. And or there are ways to outsource pieces of it and retain that part so that you can do the genuine engagement. Because once you hand it off, it's not really 100% genuine, is it? I mean,
No.
if you helped create it, sure, that's one thing. But if you're just saying to someone, go out there and do it, it does work for a lot of people, but you run the risk of not really being in it. And then they're not going to get as much of your flavor, or they're going to know, gee, that seems unlike her. She doesn't usually write that way or say that kind of thing. So it's not usually worth it to outsource to that extent or to someone who's not able to do it as well. So like I said, I'm always going to be a fan of and a cheerleader for you doing as much as you can as easily as possible, where it's genuinely you. Because we're talking
Yeah,
about building relationships. I mean, why are we adding
absolutely.
a third person to the party? If I want to get to know you, but my VA is talking to your VA, that's only going to go so far.
And for about 30 days before it all falls apart.
Right, right.
Listen, I have nothing against the VA industry, and I think there are some great ones out there. But if you don't work with them and share who you are with them, and I mean work with them, have a conversation with them every week.
Yeah.
Don't just hand them stuff and expect that they're going to read your mind. You're both
Right,
going to be disappointed.
right. And people can help with the scheduling. They can help with hey, Deb, you should check this out. There's a bunch of comments on this post that you might want to look at. Like, there are a lot of ways to get support that will not deteriorate any of the trust that you're building online.
Exactly. How can people find you and work with you?
Oh, thank you so much, Denise. I am on pretty much all the social media channels as Deb Coman or Deb Coman Writing. People can go to my website at debcoman.com. I have a whole bunch of resources there if they would like to, uh, w- you know, practice more of this building trust online. I've got the conversation starters that people can download and start using. They can grab that at debcoman.com/build trust and put some of the things that we talked about today into practice.
Absolutely. Listen, thank you for sharing so many valuable insights with us. But before we go, do you have any final thoughts you'd like to leave with the audience?
Oh, thank you, Denise. I would encourage you to take a moment and reflect back on your time on social media and take a look at what we shared about here today. What is it that you don't like about it? And what are the pieces that you could do more of or do differently, have fun with, so that people get to know you even better and build trust with you even faster?
Absolutely. And I'm going to add a little bit to that. Go Google yourself. Go to
Mm.
Perplexity and ask Google or ask Perplexity to do a deep dive on your social media. I'm telling you, you're going to find a lot of really old stuff that should not be seeing the light of day. Either you've moved out of that industry, you're no longer doing that. It just needs to be gone. You need to stay fresh and relevant.
Yeah.
Go do it. Clean out your old social media stuff that's just hanging around that maybe it's just no longer pertinent.
Yeah,
It
good
won't take
idea.
long, but do it. Well, listen, that is our episode for today. Deb Coleman has shown us that building a steady stream of ideal clients does not require endless posting or overwhelming hours online. Instead, it's all about creating real, trust based connections, one authentic comment at a time. And if you're ready to transform your social media approach and start seeing genuine results, put her simple strategy into action. And she says set aside just 30 minutes a day. I love that. 30 minutes a day to engage. Tell me, Deb, is that Monday through Friday, or is that every day?
You know what? I'm going to say it should be what works for each person, but
Oh,
even
you
as
said that,
little
yeah.
as 3 times a day, 3 times a week is plenty when you do it with quality.
Got it. Well, just set aside 30 minutes a day to engage meaningfully, coffee, dang it, and watch your network and your business grow. So take action. Napoleon Hill used to say this all the time in Think and Grow Rich. There's no big mystery. Take action. Start connecting, build trust, and let your social media presence work for you today. And if you found today's conversation helpful, don't forget to subscribe. Leave us a review and share this episode with a friend who could use a boost in their business outreach. And for more resources and expert insights, be sure to visit us at yourpartnerinsuccessradio.com and be sure to go find Deb Coman. I'm Denise Griffitts, and I will see you each Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Deb, thank you so much.
Thank you, Denise. I've loved our conversation today.
We always have fun. People ought to hear the pre-interviews. I never publish those. Thank you, Deb.
Thank you.
Get your voice heard. If you would like to launch your own far-reaching podcast, contact Denise Griffitts at yourofficeontheweb.com and go to the podcast tab.